All right, so from what we understand with Hurricane Harvey, 70% of the flood damage was uninsured, which is really crazy. So no flood insurance, completely uninsured. Those affected have already been instructed to contact FEMA, whether it's on their 800 number or online, but FEMA apparently has a ton of information. I know that you've been doing some research, and that's what they've been instructed to go ahead and do. Whether they were insured or not insured, they need to be contacting FEMA.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just say that someone's in a situation where they lost their housing, or they've got damage to their house and they can't stay there. One of the first things that you really need to do is reach out to the servicer of your mortgage and make sure that if you need forbearance on making that payment, that you're taking care of that as quickly as you can. A lot of times you're going to be able to get a 6-month extension where you don't have to make your house payment, and then a lot of times even after that first 6 months, they're going to extend that another 6 months. So be sure that you are reaching out to your servicer. You are still going to be charged interest while you're not making that payment, but they're not going to be reporting that to your credit agency, and you're not going to be charged any late fees.
Got it. So another thing to know is that after the forbearance is up, the mortgage company is going to expect for that mortgage to be completely caught up. So that's really something that needs to be understood. So either they need to be making extra payments to get it caught up during the time of it being in the forbearance, or they need to be modifying the mortgage, or they're going to need to make some sort of arrangement with the servicer, because it's going to have to be caught up once that forbearance is over.
I think the most important thing too is make sure you're communicating with that servicer. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call them. Servicers want to help. They want to make sure that you get through this period and that you don't, get that loan foreclosed on. Do make sure though that during that period, if you do a forbearance, that you are monitoring your credit. I mean, I tell clients this all the time. It's so important to monitor your credit, but particularly during this time period, because they are not supposed to be reporting that when you're in forbearance. You want to make sure that that's happening.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, even when the house is complete, if the house is completely destroyed or not, the servicer expects payment. And so if the forbearance hasn't happened, or if it's up, the payment is still expected to be made, even if it's just down to a slab. There has been a promise to make payment. And so you want to make sure that that's happening. And unfortunately, a lot of customers they're going to have 2 payments that they're actually going to be responsible for between the apartment that they go live in during this time of reconstruction, or in addition to the mortgage that they may have. They're going to have 2 stinking payments that they're going to have to be making, and it's sad, but you want to make sure that you're contacting FEMA to get this all figured out.
Yeah, for sure. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and FHA did all 3 release statements stating that they were going to give an automatic 90-day extension to folks who were affected. So if they can't get to their paperwork, or they can't get to a phone, or it's the last thing on their mind, that is a nice 3-month hiatus. But be sure that you're not just resting on that, and that you're going ahead and getting that process started on the forbearance if you feel like you're going to need it.
It's nice that they've recognized that the technology isn't really there right now, because that's what we need, unfortunately, in this day and time. Is you got to have the technology to make sure their forbearance is there. I've got a client right now who's supposed to be closing this week, but he's with the National Guard, so he has orders to be down there, but he's in a spot that there's no technology. So he can't sign his closing disclosure. He actually had to sign a power of attorney, and he had to find a notary. Luckily, he found one. Mail isn't running, so it took a while to get it mailed here, the original, because you have to have an original power of attorney for closing. So it's just kind of that technology piece is really, it sucks that we don't have. One of the things that I remember, we were both in the industry during the time of Katrina. And thinking back to it, I remember getting lots of phone calls after Katrina happened of customers who may have received some sort of small payout, and those customers are ready to go ahead and purchase a home. So at that point, they were coming from New Orleans and trying to move to Dallas, and they wanted to go ahead and purchase a house. But unfortunately, if there is still a mortgage being tied up on that credit, we have to prove that the credit is in good standing, and prove that that mortgage has been paid on time. And if that mortgage is not going to be paid off, the customer has to qualify for both mortgages in that instance, or the mortgage has to be completely gone. There isn't unfortunately a way of just writing an explanation of, I was a victim of this hurricane, now I'm ready to buy a house. Yes, I have a mortgage, but the house isn't there, so I'm ready to move on with my life. There's a lot of things that have to be done. So it's important to get the message out that no, it's just not an automatic, yes, we're ready to buy a house. You've paid your payment on time in the past. We can forget about that mortgage and move forward. There's no forgetting about the mortgage. It's a big deal. So it's just important for people to remember that. Tito recently bought a car, and the guy that was helping us with the loan for the car let us know that he's had so many. He's in the Dallas area. He's had so many people contact him because they need a car. I mean, their cars are destroyed, and so not only just the mortgage side, but on the auto side, there's a lot of people trying to apply for the auto loans.
So many things to think about.
Yeah.
There are a couple of additional programs that we wanted to point out. One is FEMA is doing some grants. So individual assistance grants is what they're called, and it's up to about $33,000 I think per individual that you can get. So be sure that if you're in one of those affected areas, or you know someone that is, that you're looking into that. We'll put the links below the video and below in the Facebook comments for that. And then this is kind of weird, but the Small Business Administration actually has some loans for construction and or rehab. So those are two avenues that you can go through, and I'm sure that in the days to follow there will be many more, but that's just two that we know of right now.
Yeah, and the Small Business Administration, it's for actual residences, or the loans are for actual homeowners. It's not for small business owners. Yeah, it's kind of bizarre, but look that up, Small Business Administration. But that's what we got for you guys. If you know someone, if someone's being affected, if any of our friends are being affected, we're really, I just from the bottom of my heart, I'm sorry that that's happened. But I do pray that you guys get fast avenues of resources and what you need to have accomplished to get this all settled so you can move on with your life.
Yeah. Let us know if you have any questions. If we can help, we absolutely want to.
Thanks,
guys. Thanks for joining us today.